Here. All right. Like I said, thank you guys for hopping on this evening, this Sunday night training. You are going to be in for about 20 to 25 minutes, hopefully, of me talking a little bit about the follow-up and sharing with you some personal experiences because I've been involved in this company now for a little over 9 years. So I've had some practice with the follow-up. I've done it wrong. I've done it right. I still stumble and make some mistakes, and we can always improve. But before I speak on the follow-up, for those of you guys that are hopping on that have no clue who I am, let me introduce myself. So my name is Dr. Angela Pasco, and I was born and raised in rural South Dakota with my older brother. And my grandparents lived within walking distance just up the gravel road, so the importance of family has always been high on my priority list. My mother and grandparents always had big gardens. This is where my love for gardening came from. And I knew at a young age, I wanted to help people live healthier lives, mentally and physically. And when I say a young age, I knew probably at the age of 12 and 13, this is the direction I wanted to go. I knew I wanted to help people. I just didn't know how yet, right? So I majored in psychology and business in undergraduate school with the intention of getting my master's in counseling. So I met my husband on a scuba diving boat while studying abroad in Australia during this time. I studied sociology economics in Australia. And shortly there later, we had 3 children. Now they're ages 11, 12, and 18. 2 of my 3 children were born at home at the end of my graduate studies. So yes, I know what it's like to be extremely busy and have no extra time. So when people, when that patient, and I'll share with you in a minute, when that patient introduced this to me, she could have looked at my life. My kids were 2, 3, and 9. I was just starting my chiropractic practice. She could have looked at me and said, she's too busy. I'm not going to share with her. I'm glad that she didn't prejudge. I was in my second major whiplash injury car accident when my son was 2 years old while I was working as a counselor at a residential treatment center for kids. And chiropractic care absolutely changed my son's life at that point. And from there forward, I knew I needed to pursue the chiropractic career. It wasn't counseling, right? I knew I wanted to help people, and I just finally figured out what it was. So I've been in practice a little over 10 years. My clinic consists of chiropractic, massage, and lactation consulting. I see a lot of pediatrics. I see a lot of new mommies with new babies, and we love to help them successfully be able to breastfeed and get over some of those humps that maybe some new moms have. So after a year and a half into my practice, that's when I said I was introduced to LifeVantage. A patient of mine came to me. She said, if I send you an ABC investigative report that ends positive regarding wellness, would you take a look? The if I would you, and it piqued my interest. I was a year and a half into my practice. I was building, what I wanted to build was a wellness clinic. I didn't want a pain clinic. I didn't want to chase people's pain, even though I knew most people coming through my doors initially, they'd have pain attached to why they were coming to see me. But I knew I wanted to really build a wellness clinic and help people understand where true healing comes from, which is above down and inside out. So I took a look at that ABC investigative report, and after watching it, I was impressed and incredibly intrigued by what I saw. But I'm skeptical and analytical by nature, so what happened, I had to dig deeper. And my patient was smart enough to connect me with some upline leaders in the company, and they explained what Nerve 2 activation was. And from that point in, I was all in because I knew I needed to share this information not only with my patients, but with my family and my friends. In 1 year, my husband and I were able to reach the rank of Pro 5, and we are currently Pro 6 in LifeVantage. In this business, I'm telling you, when done right, you guys, this is the most beautiful business model. And it's been humbling, rewarding, and challenging. I'm grateful for my team and our dedication to sharing this information consistently. And I'll tell you, you guys, sharing it consistently now, when life happens, life always happens. There's always something that's going to happen where there's a hiccup or a family member that's sick and we want to take some time off to be with them. But I've been able to step away and be present with those that I love most during these times, thanks to this company and weaving this into my life almost 9 years ago. So, and for those of you guys as well, those of us that have another job, when we're not at our job, when I'm not adjusting patients, you guys, I'm not getting paid, right? So we're all going through this weird time. COVID hits. I have to close my clinic. I closed my clinic for 6 weeks in April and in May. And thank goodness, like I said yes to this 9 years ago and chose to weave it into my already busy life, because I knew this was the vehicle that I was going to have that would get my time back, but it wasn't going to be overnight. It would take time and effort and energy. So because I said yes, went to work and followed up consistently, I have more choices. And that's when reopening my practice, I chose to be open on a part-time basis. I was seeing close to 100 people a week. And the method I do, I'm about a half-hour visit, per patient. It's not 5 minutes a visit, it's about a half an hour. So that was a lot of people. And I often, insurance requirements go up every year. So I often then, when I'd come home, play with my kids, tuck them in, remote in to finish up patient notes. Part of my job I don't like. We all have the part of our jobs that we don't love. And that would take up a lot of time, especially seeing that many people. So when I chose to come back and to reopen my practice safely, I chose to open it on a part-time basis because I could. And I wanted to be more present with my children. I blinked and my son turned 18, I feel. And my girls are 11 and 12. So time goes by that quickly, and I'm not going to look back, I think, 10 years from now and say, God, I wish I would have worked more when my kids are, grown and out of my house. I think this is the right decision. And I get to choose this because I dug the well before I was thirsty. So my hope is that you remain consistent with following up so you too can have more choices in your lives. The fortune really, really is in the follow-up. And I'm going to weave in and share some examples of what I've seen in the 9 years I've been involved in this business. So as I was preparing this, if you see me looking down, I took notes because I get nervous still after this many years getting up in front of people, and I want to deliver valuable information. So 4 major tips for those taking notes, 4 tips on following up. I'm going to state them and then I'll go through each one of them. Number 1, do what you say you're going to do. And the second one is set up exposure after exposure. So think of the follow-up as an exposure. The third, it will take multiple exposures. And then finally, the fourth is condense your time between exposures. So let me go through each one of these with you guys. So first, do what you say you're going to do. Before sending out a tool, and in our group, we like to use BioHack and Activate.com. Ask your upline leaders what you like to use or use your tool. But before you send that tool, you pique that interest. Before you send it, schedule the follow-up with it. Think of it, like I said, as an exposure. The more we expose someone to this information, the more informed they will be, and informed people make yes or no decisions, right? And that's ultimately what we want to get to. We want to get to a yes or a no. So we can move on. And when I got started in this business, I was really good at piquing interest. We get started, we're ignorance on fire. We're excited to share this information. I piqued that interest. And then after getting the prospect to say yes, I would send out the ABC Primetime Investigative Report without scheduling a follow-up. How many of you guys have done that? All this did was frustrate me and frustrate my prospect, because what I was doing, it then felt like I was chasing. I was sending texts and phone calls. Have you had a chance to watch that ABC investigative report? And often they would send a message back saying, no, I'm just so busy. So our prospects don't know yet the importance of what we're sharing. This is really important, and it's your business, it's our business, so we need to stay in control of our business by scheduling a follow-up. So after a few weeks of sending the link with no scheduled follow-up, I often would move on because I didn't want to feel like I was nagging them. And for those that have done this, You do. You don't want to be a nag. You don't want to feel like you're selling them anything. You really just want people to see it like you did. So Carrie Dickey always says, in the beginning when I joined this business, her, Maria, and Carrie Williams would come to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and do some presentations for us. We'd often have 300-400 people in the room. I mean, we had to really rent out big halls because we had a lot of people learning about this information. But Carrie said she'd love to come back into Sioux Falls and sweep up all the ABC primetime orphans, because how many people saw that and never were followed up upon. So before you send any links or any tools, please schedule the follow-up and commit to connecting with your prospect. Here's what I like to say. I want you to see the information like I did and answer any questions that you might have right after you view the information. And when do you have 15 to 20 minutes in the next couple of days to connect? And I say next couple of days, you want to put that time, commitment in there. And if they can't in the next couple of days, when in the next week would you have 15 to 20 minutes and schedule that time? Often I'm watching that ABC investigative report with them, but then able to follow up directly after they view it. That's ideal. And then after you schedule that time to connect, let them know you're going to send them a call or a text either the day before or the day of your meeting. That's just another way to confirm, and that's, being professional in your business. You're just letting them know if a text or a phone call would work better the day before or after, just as a friendly reminder of that meeting. And then the second point is set up exposure after exposure. So most people typically do not make a buying decision after the first exposure. In fact, according to Eric Worre, 9 out of 10 people will not buy after the first exposure. So we are in the business of educating and not selling. So if they're interested but need more information, invite them to the next scheduled Zoom presentation that your team is doing so they can see the entire picture of what we have to offer. And if they're viewing that first, tool that you have and their interest is piqued, I always like to say, I want you to see the full picture of what this is all about, and then invite them to that meeting. And then after they see the presentation and they're still not ready, right? We have to sift and sort and ask lots of questions. Ask, if it's an issue of they need more information. That's simple. Find the information, connect them to the information they might need. And if you don't know it, please ask your team members. We're all here to help each other out. But the time, if time is an issue, then ask if they need a few more days or if a week would be better. But really try to schedule that follow up. Don't leave it hanging, because then it feels like you're chasing, right? So, and again, our job is to educate and not sell to our prospects regarding the products and this business. So another important tool is to connect as you're asking questions and you're realizing, oh my gosh, Jenny's my prospect and she's dealing with, maybe a health condition, or she's, really contemplating the idea of incorporating this business into her life. And I know somebody that's in the same boat already in this business. Use the third-party validation. Connect your prospect with someone who's been through a similar experience, health or business. It is incredibly powerful. But keep the connection brief and to the point. So, and you can set that up. You as the bridge to your prospect, to the expert, set it up. Let them know, this person's really busy. They only have, about 10 minutes. Because I don't know about you guys, but I've been put on a three-way call before, not just in this business and other ones I've been involved in, where you're on for an hour to two. Nobody ever wants to do that. People glaze over and they probably won't return some calls if you've kept them on the phone for an hour or two with a three-way call. So keep it short, brief, to the point. And then number 3, so it will take multiple exposures. So how long do we follow up? That's the question. I always say as long as it takes, right? But always be respectful, patient, and loving. Meet people where they're at. If they're not ready yet, it's their timing, it's not ours. No matter how badly we want this for someone, whether it's for their health or for their family and this business, it's in their timing. And on average, it takes 4 to 6 exposures for someone to join. So don't give up after the second, after the third, even frankly, after the fourth time you've connected with somebody. So, and also, if somebody tells you no, let them know that you respect their decision and ask permission to keep them in the loop. And I always say, if a new study comes out, if we have a new product that's launched, or if timing changes in your life and you're open to looking at this business in the future, please remember remember me, come back to me, reach out. And if you stay connected and foster that relationship, they'll know who to come back to. So I love that. So not every exposure will be about the products and the business, you guys. So maintaining, fostering the relationships is what builds trust. And when people trust you, they'll be more open to your suggestions and you educating them on the product and this business, and they want to follow somebody that they trust. So I have distributors and preferred customers in my business after years of follow-up and exposure. I'm gonna tell you guys a few examples here. So I remember being really excited when I joined. I came home and I even told my husband I joined another company, and my balloon got popped because he said, "What's the newest and next best thing this time?" And I said, "No, this is different. It's publicly traded. There's real peer-reviewed science behind this." He didn't burst my bubble completely because I still went out and shared with a bunch of people. And Amber is one of my friends I shared with. And I said, "Oh, I would love to share this with you. I can see us doing this business together." I was really excited about sharing the opportunity, not necessarily the products. But at that time in her life, she was going through a separation, just about, already single mom to 3 little boys. She was in a really hard place financially in her life. She was in a place of overwhelm. She was not open to hearing this information. No matter my vision for her, what I could see for her, what I wanted, didn't matter. She wasn't ready. So fast forward, for years, I kept dripping. She wasn't ready. First of all, she thought it was another one of those things and just didn't want to hear about it. But I kept dripping and educating her on the importance of activation, the importance of what this was doing inside of people's bodies. So 6 years later, she had a health condition where the traditional Western medicine wasn't able to help. In fact, they did the x-rays and they said, "There's nothing we can do, take ibuprofen." Well, she ended up developing an ulcer because the ibuprofen. So she ends up not sleeping and in pain, not able to walk up and down stairs real well because of the amount of pain she was in. So she came to me and she said, "Okay, I'm ready. Tell me again about this Protandim thing." So I told her, and within a day or two, I think she got started on the product. Her life, her health had changed significantly within a period of 2 to 3 months. And she was sharing it left and right with everybody as a customer. So I then had to have the conversation. "Amber, you're already sharing this as a customer. Let's look at maybe what this business looks like so you can get paid for sharing." So she was open to that and said yes. So 6 years later, you guys. Another example, one of my patients that came to me 4 years ago always has seemed interested in this. But again, timing in her life, she wasn't ready. So I stepped back. I continued to educate, kept her in the loop. She wanted to know if there's new studies, all of this. Fast forward, she now has 2 little kids and really is looking at how she can maybe, make some money from home. However, a health condition cropped up with hormone changes and the timing just happened to be right. And I shot her a message and said, "I'm so excited that you're activated after 4 years, of sharing this." And she said I was able to make a decision because of the circumstances, and the timing in my life right now couldn't be more than perfect, is what she told me. And then finally, my cousin, another person that I originally shared this with way in the beginning, and she remembers, a lot of my family members remember that I've done other network marketing companies. So they thought Angie, not Dr. Angela Pasco, Angie was doing another one of those things, and my cousin was not interested in taking any pills or learning. Fast forward, circumstances change. She was diagnosed with And again, I'm not claiming to cure, treat, prevent, mitigate anything with what we have our hands on, but she was diagnosed with stage 4 brain tumor. And at that point, I didn't go right at her with the product again, but I said, you know what? I'm going to research what Nerve 2 activation can do at helping, helping with your quality of life through this. When you're ready, let me know. Or as I learn more about this, I'm going to let you know throughout your process, because she went through the process of 1.5 years of traditional Western medical treatment, and it was failing her. And I remember getting a phone call the end of 2014, and she said, this treatment is killing me. I don't know what else to do. And I said, well, I've done a lot of research. I don't know what this can do for you, but let's give it a shot. And she ended up getting started on Nerve 2 and being Nerve 2 activated. And I will tell you, that was in 2015. She's now has no regrowth of that tumor. And had I not followed up with her, you guys, you just never know. I had to stop reading the research regarding the cancer she was going through, because the recurrence of that type of tumor was 98% within 3 years. It means 98% likely that there's going to be regrowth within 3 years post-treatment. She's now almost 5 years out. We celebrate that. And later she upgraded herself without me even knowing, to a distributor, because she told me, she said, I felt like I had a moral obligation to share this with people based on what it's done in my life. So meet people where they're at. If I shoved it down all these guys' throats from the very beginning, they would have put the wall up and never would have been open later. So really meet people where they're at. And then finally, number 4, condense time between exposures. And what that means is too much time between exposures can do more damage than good. So if it's been months, say they've watched that ABC investigative report, you were never able to set up a follow-up, and it's been months, they're likely not going to remember much of the information they saw. So it's almost like starting over with them. It really is ideal if you can schedule your meeting, show the ABC investigative report, or use whatever team's, your team's tool, whatever you use, do the 3-way or the Zoom call within really a week to 2. And this way, the information you're sharing is in the front of your prospect's mind, and it's not forgotten. And if you get a no, take it as a no, not now. Keep dripping, ask their permission to keep them in the loop. And if they don't want to be in the loop, ask for referrals. A couple of statistics I want to throw out. I find this really interesting. 91% of customers say they would give referrals. But guess what? Only 11% of us are asking for referrals. So the takeaway of this one, all you have to do is ask, what is the worst that can happen? Don't beat around the bush and suggest referrals, just ask. Who do you know that would benefit from this information? Who do you know that's open to a second source of income or looking to work from home right now? Because more and more people are looking to work from home now more than ever. And it's a great way to continue to fill your funnel. Another interesting statistic, and maybe some of us that have been involved for a while or have been involved with sales know this, but 80% of sales require 5 follow-ups after the initial meeting. And only 44% of people give up after the first follow-up. Are you kidding? So just because you've got your foot in the door doesn't mean you've closed the sale, you guys. So stay persistent. Do everything you can to stay connected with your prospect beyond that initial meeting. So I remember being at the Most Powerful Women in Network Marketing event a couple years back, and Eric Worre had everybody stand up that were 6-figure earners or above. And he said, okay, now I want you to sit down if you said yes after the first exposure. We maybe had one person sit down. It wasn't many people, right? 9 out of 10 are not going to say yes after the first exposure. So he said, how about the second one? A few more people sat down. How about the third exposure? A few more people sat down. The 5th, the 6th. So, the percentage. For those that I just saw a question here, the percentage was 80% of sales require 5 follow-ups. 44% of people give up after the first follow-up. So of all those women standing up, the 6-figure earners and above, it took at least 5 to 6, sometimes 7 to 12 exposures or follow-ups, you guys. Imagine that. Go back, look at your list of people you've shared this with that maybe you just never got a solid answer. You can always go back to them and say, you know what? Maybe I dropped the ball. I feel like I want you to see this information like I did and start from scratch and see if they'll let you have another go. But how often have you followed up with people on your list? So my challenge to you is really look at the people you're sharing this even currently with and see where you're at. And know that if you're getting closer to that 5, that 5th time, you're really close to getting that yes. So follow up as long as it takes. And then finally, another statistic that I found kind of sad is only 13% of customers or prospects believe that you understand their needs. That means the majority of people that we're sharing this information to don't really believe that we know what their needs are. So what's our takeaway? Be professional, ask lots of questions. You know, professional network marketers, we are like doctors diagnosing a patient's illness. Carrie Dickey says it the best. She says that you make a friend, find their pain, and then offer a solution. And the only way to do that is foster and maintain relationships and know where people are at. So always be asking questions, actively listen so we can truly understand the needs of those people that we're working with. And when we come from a place of understanding, it is then that the prospect really feels heard and listened to, and their walls are going to continue to come down. So I thank you guys for your time and energy and attention, and I'm going to open it up to any questions. But all of my business, I put in old school planner, right? I write it out. So those that I'm following up with, I have it in my yearly planner. And I'll take notes, you know, during each of those follow-ups as to, you know, what information that I might get, because I might glean a piece of information that then I can go back and say, based on what you said, and think about this with even people you've never shared this with yet. Ask enough questions so then you can go back and say, based on what you said regarding that health issue you have, if I had some information that could help with that, would you be open to taking a look? Always be listening. That would be, you know, my challenge to you guys is be a better listener than somebody, you know, be a better listener than a talker, I guess. The more questions we can ask, the deeper we can really get to know people. So I hope this was very helpful for you guys. It's an honor to be on here. I thank Maria for asking me to host tonight's, and I hope that I'm invited back on one of these other evenings and host another time. I usually talk about science, so this was really fun to do the follow-up. The importance of the follow-up. You could change thousands of lives based on one follow-up, you guys. Based on one person saying yes. The ripple effect of this, think about that. So yeah, make it fun. And if you have it scheduled, you're way less likely to get frustrated with this business. So I will stop the recording and